Greetings, Fry fans, and welcome to day 18 of our Halloween countdown here in the lab. Can you believe how fast this month is going? 18 days in already. Last night, we looked at The Strange Case of Dr. RX, one of the Universal Shock package of films, which is what we're counting down this year. What are we going to look at tonight? Let's shake this up and see what we can come up with here. Trying to give them a good mix so that we can find something fun. All right, there it is, whatever I grabbed there. All right, tonight we're going to look at one of the greats of the genre, the biggies that I'm surprised hasn't shown up yet, talking about Frankenstein. This is Universal Studios' adaptation of the 1818 book by Mary Shelley. Hot on the heels of the smash success of Dracula, Universal was keen to make another horror picture as quickly as possible. It was originally slated to be directed by Robert Florey and to star Bela Lugosi as Dr. Frankenstein. That changed when the hot new director James Whale arrived in Hollywood and expressed interest in directing the project. The film was given to Whale, and Lugosi and Florey were reassigned to Murders in the Rue Morgue. Frankenstein, of course, tells the story of an obsessed doctor's attempt at bringing to life a body stitched together with parts taken from cadavers. The doctor, named Henry here rather than Victor as in the book, is played by Colin Clive. The monster was played by Boris Karloff, and the doctor has an assistant named Fritz, played by Dwight Fry. Henry is engaged to be married, and his fiancée is played by Mae Clarke. Frankenstein was made in 1931 and is one of the most influential of all the Universal horror films. It was a smash box office success and was followed by a string of sequels. It set the archetype for mad science films to come from that point on, with its arcing electrical equipment, the thundering rainstorm, the gloomy castle setting, the angry mob storming the laboratory, which is destroyed by fire. So many themes from this one would be repeated time and again in mad science films from this point forward. The electrical apparatus was designed by Kenneth Strickfaden and is an integral part of the lab design. Dwight Fry's performance as Fritz was fantastic and probably not praised enough. It's one of my favorite things to watch on repeat viewings. He's such a little weasel. He was so good, in fact, they brought him back to play an entirely different assistant in the sequel to this one, Bride of Frankenstein. The monster designed by the great Jack Pierce is iconic and haunting. It was brought to life masterfully by Karloff, whose performance was frightening, yet still managed to make us feel sympathetic towards the monster. This one made Karloff a star, and he would appear in the next two entries in the Frankenstein series, Bride of Frankenstein and Son of Frankenstein. That's right, Frankenstein, starring Boris Karloff as the monster and Colin Clive as the Mad Doctor. It just doesn't get any more influential than Frankenstein. This film would influence movies to this very day. Everything about the Frankenstein mythos, from the mad science equipment to the arcing electricity, the storm outside, the hunchback assistant, the lumbering monster, the mad scientist obsessed with life, his girlfriend who just wants to bring him back. I mean, everything about this, the professor who was his mentor, and you know, it all comes from this film. This was the most influential mad scientist movie of all time. It's better than the sequel, which most people don't agree with, but I do. And that's my thoughts on it for sure, and because it doesn't have that humor of Bride. And this film is a perfect five-skull picture. I will always be up for another rewatch of Frankenstein every Halloween. And speaking of Bride of Frankenstein was not in this Universal Shock package. It's one of the ones that was included in the second Son of Shock package, so we won't be covering that one this year. Some of the Universals that you think might be in here were, for whatever reason, saved for that one, and Bride is one of the ones. Frankenstein, perfect 5-skull score from me. Let me know what you guys think about this one. I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't, do yourself a favor and watch it. It still holds up today. That Jack Pierce makeup is absolutely iconic, and this is where it came from. It started with this film right here. It's actually playing on a TV in the other room right now on that Universal channel, which is kind of funny. I walked in there and made some coffee a few minutes ago, and what was playing? Frankenstein. I was like, that's kind of appropriate. So anyway, check this out if you haven't. I watch this every Halloween, sometimes 2 or 3 times, just because I'll catch it on TV and watch parts of it. But we always make sure to give it at least one good watch every Halloween because it's worth it. All right, so 5 Skulls, Frankenstein. Be sure and join me back here in the lab. We'll have more mad science fun. Until then, stay mad.